The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
Welcome back to another Mission Minded. Keep your mind, your mission on your mind. He is Michael Coleman, the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank. I am Tony Kurre here on TKR, Tony Kurre Radio. Of course, thanks to 100,000 folks who have downloaded our app. You can listen to all of our shows. We have 14 different shows. We're always developing new shows. We're always looking for new ideas. Info at TonyKurreRadio.net. You get an idea, bring it your way. And of course, you can listen to all of our shows wherever you do all your favorite podcasting and also watch them like you're doing right now on, of course, our YouTube channel here. And of course, to listen to them if you're driving, you can't actually watch a show. Michael, how you doing, brother? Everything good? I love today's topic because I love when we have a topic that is not only something that is really going to make you think, not only from an employee, but from an employer standpoint, but also very topical. But I love it. But how you doing, brother? Everything good?
Well, excited about starting the new year. This is a special day. We're actually recording on Martin Luther King.
Yes.
Jr. We reside in Montgomery in the heart of the civil rights movement, and want to pay homage to a man who gave his life to change the world and change perspectives, and his influence still remains very strong today in Montgomery as well as around the country and even around the world.
Do you ever think, and not to say we were going to talk about this, but I do think that sometimes, we look at people that left this earth way too early. And we can use, Elvis Presley, we can use Marilyn Monroe, we can use Jimi Hendrix, certainly at different levels of expertise and their gifts that God gave them on this earth. And you talk about, the King. Do you think that he's influenced the world more because he left us so early?
Wow. The world that we experience today is just so different, and I'm thankful. I wonder, the pictures of that you see from Montgomery and Birmingham and around the South, when he was there, you see people just trying to go to school or trying to eat in a restaurant and having fire hoses turned on or police dogs or just the kind of atrocities that were accepted across the public that, of course, would not receive any sort of support today. That's largely because of his impact. But I do wish that he were here today for a host of reasons, but also to comment on today. One of the things sometimes that I think gets lost is the progress that we have made, and we don't celebrate that enough. We always talk about what's left to do. And I admit, racism is still there. It's not just a white and black thing. It goes across, our prejudices can be more than ethnic related. It can be based on a lot of things. And so having his wisdom and his calmness and his ability to speak to these in a way that doesn't, he seemed to always try to choose the side that was right. It wasn't political in that it was not under the banner of a particular political party. I think he could cut that divide today. You have people on the left, you have people on the right. They're both talking at each other. I think he would bring that reasoned voice who could speak to a lot of these issues in a defining and an authoritative way.
Well, and I think that is absolutely perfect to get us into today's show because we wanted to talk about leadership, and obviously the King was a big part of that. And then you've got this guy named Nick Saban who just out of the blue, decided he wanted to resign last week. And next thing you know, they're kind of scrambling. And, leave it to Alabama, who just seems like they're just such a well-oiled machine. Even the president said, we will have a new head coach within 72 hours. They didn't even allow it to grow legs, which I absolutely love because only a lot of people are into that drama, that chaos. Well, who they're going to hire, and they get a short list. They didn't even allow them to have a short list. They pretty much knew who they were going to hire. And of course, that was Kalen DeBoer out of Washington. And I think it's a great hire. I think it's a perfect hire for him in that. And there's a million different directions we could go on Mission Minded for this. That's why this show's so good. It's a million different ways we could go because He had won a national championship. He has won championships at different levels. But even if he's not super successful at Alabama, it is going to be a resume builder for him, as opposed to a coach that perhaps had won a national title at a different level. They come into Alabama and they can't quite get them over a hump into another national championship. And there's, needless to say, it's incredibly difficult to win national championships, particularly 7, like a guy like Nick Saban did. So a lot of people are saying these shoes are incredibly difficult to fill. But when you're bringing in leadership, let's just start right there because we talked off mic before the show, the importance of hiring within, which does not happen in college football a lot. Let's start right there because college football is a lot different. And anyone, you and I have both done sports shows. We've talked a lot of sports together. We realize that for the most part, if your head coach is fired or he's resigned or he's moving on to another situation, there's a 99% chance they're not going to hold on to you. Just talk about that aspect of it first.
Yeah, so you see this a lot. And if you are let's say a less prestigious program, you might elevate up your coordinator to take over your head coaching job, especially if he'd been there and he'd been cemented, had lots of experience. You might say, well, now this guy's going to be a great head coach. He's proven that, so we're just going to elevate him up. Alabama is at a place where it's so competitive in the SEC, especially from the Kirby Smarts at Georgia, and then you've got Brian Kelly at LSU and Lane Kelly. I mean, it's everywhere you turn. And then, Hugh Freeze has done well at Auburn. So there's just competition. And so one of the things that Alabama couldn't afford to do was take long in this process, simply because as soon as there's a NCAA rule that opens up the transfer portal again for 30 days. And a lot of people put their names in there and are still putting their names in there just as a safeguard. And then a lot of kids are just taking a wait and see attitude. But it's because of people like Kalen DeBoer. There's already been an evaluation going on. So I think some of the qualities that we knew wanting to come in had already been assessed, had already been evaluated by Greg Burns, athletic director. So we already kind of had a short list, I think. But what's interesting about that is our audience outside of Alabama may not appreciate the pressure cooker that he's coming into, because it's like no other. And to illustrate this, Nick Saban came in and restored Alabama to what we all hoped, and then went to a level that's, 6 national championships. He already had one at LSU. He brought one in. He did 6 national championships in 17 years. We were in the championship game. I think we've lost 3 championship games. So there was the potential to have even more. I mean, just phenomenal record. But this guy, Jermaine, Funny Man Jones, who does a lot of boundless stuff in Birmingham, really funny guy. He did a little skit to where they're at the very first football game and there's a coin toss, and ref asked the Alabama player, heads or tails, and he says heads, and he flips and it's tails. And Alabama fans start yelling, Nick Saban would never lose the coin toss. Yeah. And that's going to be the kind of pressure, get that guy out here. That's what he's walking into. So you have to look at the qualities of a guy. And when I say guy, I mean that guy or gal, to understand, are they ready for the next step? Because even though he's been a successful head coach at 3 places, I mean, and obviously a Power 5 conference, Washington got them to he's done very, very well. The bottom line is the SEC is just different, and Alabama is a different pressure cooker. He was able to start off. He went 25-3 in 2 years at Washington, which is absolutely phenomenal at a school like Washington. He goes 25-3 at Alabama in his first 2 years. If he loses 2 games, I mean, you'll have some idiots out there calling for his head if he loses 2 games, and then all this comparison to Nick Saban.
And by the way, Texas and Oklahoma are going to join your family before you get started too. So yeah, I mean,
It's just not going to get easier.
But and again, you look at the different. I just love the hire because Alabama doesn't need to make a splash coaching hire.
Right.
You know, when Auburn was looking for a head coach, they're like, are they going to bring Bill Cowher back? I'm like, Bill Cowher is not going to take the Auburn job. It was fun to talk about, and you can because the sky's the limit, brother. I mean, go ask for it. Go out there and ask for whatever you want. Go out and find it. You know, ask Jim Harbaugh if he'll come coach. He's not going to do it, but. And when Alabama knocks, you know, you listen. And the fact that people realize that this job is not a Washington job. They also realize that from a cultural standpoint, hell, to talk about that a little bit, because we always talk about in college football, and this is a lot of fun, we always talk about the fit. Is Michael Coleman a good fit at the Heart of Alabama Food Bank? Yes, he's a great fit. But, you know, we could talk about X's and O's. We could talk about great leadership. But from a geographical standpoint, that's the one thing that plays in college football. Well, he's not from this part of the country. Is that a good fit?
Well, it's so interesting because you have this with a lot of coaches who have never recruited in the Southeast. And so you had, I think back to Brian Kelly, who came down for, and has done well at LSU. I mean, he's not winning Southeastern Conference. He's only been there 2 years, but, you know, I saw him one time in an interview and he was mocked for it. He came up with some sort of Southern accent or whatever. And that's the pressure. He's trying to relate to kids down there. And so I think Kalen DeBoer understands that when he comes on, he this really gets into our topic about understanding who he wants to bring on staff, because you have people that have been loyal to you that are great people that you want to bring with you from Washington. But you also recognize that you have people on staff that might be a really good offensive line coach, really good defensive line coach, whatever, but maybe are not ready for a next hire up, or are not going to be as good as what Alabama already, because that's one of the challenges with Nick Saban. When he walks away, then the guy coming in gets the choice of who his staff is. Now, it's already been announced that he's going to be keeping a couple of key Alabama staff members who are great recruiters. But Travarius Robinson, I think, was already hired away by Georgia, but he interviewed last night for the defensive coordinator position, so that yet remains to be seen. But those guys do know recruiting, and they do know the Southeast, and so you've got to have that balance. But Travarius Robinson in particular, it was stated by Nick Saban and others that guy's going to be a head coach one day. So they had already said, this guy's an emerging leader. Now, in the organization, and so that doesn't mean you always got a position for him. Everybody knew Kirby Smart was going to be hired, and Kirby Smart for years was offered tons of jobs, and that a lot of people who just wanted a head coaching job would have jumped for.
Sure.
But the background noise was Saban saying, hey, you have the, hold out for a really good job that you can go in and raise it up. And of course, his alma mater came up, and he had that opportunity, and he's excelled already with, 2 national championships. So Saban is great about recognizing who the emerging leaders are. And that's usually when he lost somebody, because somebody would take another job, and you never knew, did Satan.
There you go, Freudian slip. That's all right. That's okay.
We've all done it. All our friends refer to him as that. Yeah. Did Saban invite them to go somewhere else, or did he? Did they just have an opportunity they couldn't turn down, and you get that. So that happens inside of regular organizations, regular businesses. So I have somebody right now that put in their 2 weeks notice. And the reason is because they know that they are in a place, we've stabilized our leadership. And while anybody could leave at any time, they know they're not going to be able to move up in the organization, at least in the foreseeable future. And they feel like they can handle more responsibility and want to make more money. And they just know that opportunity is not going to be there. So they're going to go somewhere else. But I am constantly evaluating everybody in this organization, all the way down to the entry-level employee, because supervisor positions come open, manager positions come open, director positions come open. And I love to be able to hire from within because it sends such a positive message and gives hope to people working. Look, if you come in here and you buy into the culture that we've established, you work hard, you show up every day, you're part of the team, you do the things, you show that you're willing to continue to grow, and you're certainly going to have an upper hand over somebody coming in from the street, because you already understand the culture. You've already shown that you can operate effectively within that culture, and now you're just looking for opportunities to grow. That is really no different than a team environment at a college that we're talking about right now, that is to what University of Alabama and other colleges go through with leadership changes.
Yeah. Here's Michael Coleman, the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank, show we do called Mission Minded every single week. Keep your mind, your mission in your mind. Also, Bite by Bite. We'll do that show shortly after that. It's just all about food banks, and we got a great show we're going to do again for you this week. I think it's really interesting into that with the Alabama situation. It was so clean cut and dry. There was no doubt in my mind. We've been told they already knew who they're going after. They already knew there was a 99% chance that he was going to take the job if Nick Saban, and not to say that Nick Saban would say, I'm going to hold off for another couple months until you find the right guy, because I don't think that was going to happen either. I just think all the pieces fell in place. I think it was perfect for him. I think it was time for him to go as well. And so it was so clean cut and dry. When you get into a situation where you can't afford to hold on to your GM or to the president of your company any longer. You're bleeding from the inside out, and you need to make a change, and you don't have that next guy hired yet. You don't even know where to start looking. Can you talk about, because I know you've been in that situation, can you talk about what that situation's like, how transparent you are with the people inside your walls as far as in whether you're going to hire within or whether you're going to hire without? I know that it's common talk, and I do a show every week with Mark Ingram, who's the athletic director. We had a great show last week about, where's the AD fit in all this? And, they always sit there, well, it's wide open. We're going to, every job's up for a shot. And, everyone here wants to become part of a bigger part of this pie. You certainly can try for it, but we are going to look outside. It's the mechanical way of saying, listen, we're going to give everyone a shot, but they normally have an idea of where they want to go. But can you talk about how that works inside of a business place?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you're constantly evaluating, and there's things that I look for that I'm trying to size up, because I have to think, worst case scenario, I could lose anybody at any given time. God forbid somebody be in an accident and they're out for prolonged amounts of time, or even lose their life. You have somebody that gets sick and has a prolonged absence. Or you have somebody that just finds another opportunity or whatever it takes. So I have to always be thinking about the what ifs and the worst case scenarios. Where does my next staff come from? So one of the things I'm doing is just, again, I am in no way comparing myself to the skill set of Nick Saban, but it's just like Nick Saban would always look across college football, and he knows which coaches are standing out. He knows the next leaders, because he talks to people. So I stay involved in talking with people in organizations, and I hear this person's really effective, but this person, I'm really struggling with this person. So in my mind, in your community, people start kind of rising, as you interact with the community. And I make these mental notes about, and I go after, sometimes I've gone after people as leaders, and I'm like, I find out I can't even offer them half of what they're making already. Yeah. They're home run hitters, but I'm constantly looking for things, and that's kind of what the heart was that I wanted to share, was with some of the things that I look for, so that people in our audience, when they go through the same kind of things, can detect ways, and sometimes I can bring them in if I have a position open. If not, I may continue to build a relationship and kind of gauge interest to bring them over. But it is an ongoing challenge, because especially for my leadership style is I do a lot of delegation, and I do a lot of empowerment for my directors to make decisions, because our organization moves so fast. So everybody's got to be able to keep their aspect of the motor running. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always looking for people who can actually utilize their minds, think independently. That's very important to me. So one of the things I think this very that I look for is people who are not afraid to express their personal opinions about things, or when you're in a meeting, they don't talk just for the sake of talking. Some people feel like if I don't speak up, I'm going to look like a wallflower, or like I don't have any thoughts, and so they feel they put pressure on themselves to speak up. But what they say really doesn't add anything to the conversation. It's not bringing any sort of key insights. But it's the people who bring up something that I'm like, oh, I haven't thought of that, or that lets me know they're thinking on a level. I mean, they're following what I'm saying. And then it's caused them to say, but here are the gaps. And that's the kind of thinking that I really value and I really appreciate, because I don't need to surround myself with a bunch of yes men or yes women. I just need people who can independently think. And to that end, I will tell you that I really value people who can take a stand unapologetically.
Okay.
But there's a fine balance to that. So I will tell you, I have somebody who's one of my closest associates. She's really good. Behind closed doors, she will say, here's all the reasons I think you're wrong. But if I say, hey, I've listened to you, we just disagree on this, we're going to go this way, and she's the strongest advocate for that position when we leave. But I know that when she gives me an opinion, it's really her opinion. She's thought it out. She's approached it from different avenues. She's reached her opinion, and she's not afraid to stand up and say what they think, but also is not such an egomaniac that they sulk and fuss and pout. If I don't accept them, they're like, okay, my job is to help you see something from a different perspective. So I've done my job. My job is to then get on board with whatever decision the leader makes. So I guarantee you, behind the scenes, going back to the Nick Saban, I guarantee you gathered around the table and they're doing player assessments and they're doing player evaluations and practice assessments and all this. Position coaches and Nick Saban are going to see things differently. And they're going to stand up and they're going to say, hey, I think this should be the starting tackle, or I think this is the player who's the best at this position, or the depth chart, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're gonna vociferously defend their positions. But Nick Saban says, but this is going to be my starting tackle. They're going to get on board with that. They're not going to go to that player and say, hey, I tried to advocate for you, but coach, they're going to say, this is it, and get totally on board as if it's their very own decision. Just a couple more things I want to throw out there that I really look for is I love people who are ultimately about the team. And there are times when you're not afraid to get into the trenches and work with the team. Now, one of the things I tell my directors, because they have to have an eye on everything, I don't want them getting so deep into one issue that they can't manage everything else that's going on around them. But I also, if a team is, they're all pulling the rope, if you will, and they just need a little bit more help, whatever that issue is, that leader steps in and says, come on, let's go. And it's not necessarily physical labor, but it's, hey, my team's wrestling with an idea. I'm going to get in there with them and I'm going to lead them. I'm going to show that I'm a leader. And I love it when people who aren't even in charge see this void in leadership, because we know what happens. I mean, I was in the Army 21 years, and usually what happens is if you get no leaders around, then it's just anything turns into a gripe session about everything that's wrong in the world, everything's wrong with this planet, everything's wrong with the Army, everything's wrong with life. A leader steps in and says, this is not productive at all. Look, get this, you pull this, you do this, and I'm right here. And people who can just naturally step into a void, a leadership void, and solve the problem, it's irrelevant if their solution was the best solution. But just the fact of not going along with the group, which everybody's just complaining, or everybody's just standing around, they're like, no, that's not going to be who I am. Come on, guys. And they can rally people and say, come on, let's get this done real quick before we leave. That natural leadership, take charge mentality, that is incredibly valuable. And it's tough to communicate that on a resume.
Yeah.
But you see it and you're like, yeah, that's the kind of person who I'm like, I'm going to take a chance on them at even the next level because of these qualities that I see them.
Before you move on, there's just so many great questions that I could throw at you because I just think this goes so narrow and deep. But when you're talking about making a change, and we're talking about obviously Dr. King and a very special day for him, and talking about great leaders in our societies and our cultures, and then you talk about Nick Saban, who just hung it up last week. When you're talking about wanting to make a change inside of a business place, and several things are happening. First of all, perhaps there is an individual who has tried to get that position before and was passed over. And you know that person's going to want that job again. Yeah. And if they want that job again, you know you're going to have some sour grapes if they're not offered that position again. Then you have people inside an organization that knows that they're probably not going to get offered that higher position. So they say, I don't want it. I don't want to stick my neck out that far. Why would I want to be the GM when I'm making plenty of money here? I'm doing really, really good for myself. Why would I even want to have any part of that? And then you have some situations, and this is perfect for college football, where quite frankly, you can't find someone for the fit. You can't, and it just seems like every time, and I think Auburn went through this several years ago, where they must have asked 3 or 4 different coaches, and they all got turned down, and that's not a good look either. Can you talk just a little bit about those situations and how maybe how much do you need to think to yourself, hey, listen, before we pull the trigger on letting this individual go, we need to make sure we get our ducks in a row and make sure, okay, this is going to happen. Your plan A's, your plan B's, your plan C's.
Yeah, so we had such influx when I came here. We were established. We kind of reshifted our whole organizational structure. I was trying to see, was there somebody within the organization that I could elevate? And so we were bringing some people in, not at the director level, but new people but then when we would post a director job, even the new people would say, hey, I'm interested in applying. And so I felt like it was incumbent upon me for a couple of reasons, is to give that person an interview if they met the basic qualifications, but then to give them honest feedback. So I remember one lady who came in and interviewed to be a director. And I gave her some honest feedback of what I'd seen. She'd been here about 8 months. And I said, here's what I'm seeing. I do not feel like you're ready for the position. I try to speak, I try to be kind, but also try to be honest, because I've got to communicate to her what she needs to do. If she ever wants to achieve this position, she's got some growing to do. And these are the areas I feel like you need to grow in. And this is going to take time. It's going to take experience. But until you achieve that, you're not demonstrating that you're yet ready for another level. You're fine what you're doing. You're meeting the bare minimum, but you're not stepping forward in real ways and doing you're not really showing that you can handle your job and that you're trying to learn and grow and expand your capabilities. And part of that is sometimes people see opportunities and they're thinking only about money. They're like, I need to make more money, so I want the next biggest job, rather than saying, oh, I tell you what, let me get a copy. I've been so impressed. Somebody says, hey, I know this job, this is the next step in my ladder of progression. Can I get a copy of that job description and see what the requirements are? Because I want to see what I need to develop in, and just have some honest assessment about where I am, because I want to grow. And I've had people do that before in the past, and right away that person comes on your radar, because they are trying to say, I want to be somewhere else. I'm willing to work for it. I'm willing to prove myself and grow. I don't know what I don't know, but I'm willing to learn and expand my capability. The truth of the matter is, you have some people, and and we talked about this, I think, in some early shows, it is not a character flaw for people to not want to be in leadership positions.
Yeah.
Some people, for personality-wise or whatever, they don't want to manage other people. And some days I 100% understand that. Because some of the biggest toothaches that you have within an organization have to do with people and managing people. It's incredibly difficult. And so what I found is most people don't want to have to confront people, don't want to have to say that, have the tough conversations. And so they're like, hey, I'm going to make as much as I can make, but I just want to come to work, keep my head down and do my job. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, that's not somebody who's an emerging leader. An emerging leader is somebody who is doing the tough stuff, pushing others to excel, genuinely investing in helping others. They want to see the teams excel, but they don't view the team as just the people there. They view the organization as the team. So they're trying to represent the organization by great performance inside and also outside. And the people that are successful are not just because I have the capability, is that I have a desire to take what I know and benefit my community, benefit those around me. And that's where we live in the nonprofit space. The people who grow an organization have to make decisions that first and foremost emanate from a heart that cares, because you want to seek excellence because you care about the result, and the result is ultimately helping people. Nick Saban said some of those very same things. Give me everything you got for 6 seconds of a play. Mm-hmm. And don't compare yourself to other people. The standard is excellence in everything we do, because his goal was to win a championship. Well, we're not seeking to win championships in the nonprofit world, but we're seeking to do real life things which are affect people who are hungry or affect people who need a service that we're providing. We still have to seek that same level of excellence, or people are going to suffer as a result of our inability and unwillingness to do that. So leaders have to be motivated by that more so than a paycheck, and more so by the personal prestige that a higher position brings along with it.
To learn more about business, leadership, and anything else, check us out. Of course, all of our shows are up, but wherever you get your favorite podcast, we're available on every major industry all over the world. It is called Mission Mighty. Keep your mind, your mission your mind. On another show we do called Bite by Bite, we'll do that. That airs right after the show here on TKR. And of course, you can also check us out here on our YouTube channel, MikeColeman, HAFB.org or #HAFB. Thank you, brother, and we'll see you on Bite by Bite.
Thanks, Tony.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.